In the chill of a December evening in 1941, a shy 17-year-old Naval Academy aspirant named George, nicknamed Poppy, stepped into a Christmas dance in Greenwich and froze when his gaze locked on the girl in a green and red dress. Her name was Barbara Pierce, just 16, and in that suspended moment he thought she was the most beautiful creature I had ever laid eyes on. He asked a friend to introduce them, and they sat out the waltz, talking by the piano, time slipping away as two hearts recognized something extraordinary. The next night he followed her to another dance in Rye. They danced again, then corresponded in exchanged letters and secret phone calls battling geography. He at Phillips Academy in Massachusetts, she at boarding school in South Carolina, building a bond of longing, humor, and whispered promises. In spring he brought her to his senior prom and stole their first chaste kiss, and by August 1943, just before shipping off, he proposed, secretly sealing their fates. He named his Navy torpedo bombers Barbara, and wrote her letters as if his life depended on them. I love you, precious, with all my heart, and to know that you love me means my life, each word an ember of devotion. Suspense gripped them when his plane was shot down over the Pacific in 1944 and he floated in the vast sea until rescued. Barbara read from his steady letter assuring her all was well, even before she knew the crash had happened. After months of fear and anticipation, he returned on Christmas Eve 1944 and they married on January 6, 1945, under the thin winter sun, beginning a journey that would span world wars, political triumphs, devastating personal loss, and transcendent love. Years later, as they watched their only daughter Robin succumb to leukemia, leaving their hearts shattered, it was George's unwavering embrace. Night after night, he held me weeping in his arms while I tried to explain my feelings. That saved Barbara from despair, forging a bond stronger than grief. Through decades of moves, from Yale to oil fields in Texas, to the corridors of power from Congress to the United Nations, CIA headquarters, and the White House, they remained inseparable, sharing laughter. One of the reasons I married George Bush is because he made me laugh. Faith, and a nightly liturgy of I love you, Barbie, whispered before sleep even in their 90s. In Barbara's final hours in April 2018, George refused separation, holding her hand until the end, and though the world watched in silence, their love spoke louder, a record-breaking 73 years and 101 days of marriage, a testament to devotion transcending time, politics, tragedy, and mortality. A real-life epic of two souls bound so tightly they seemed destined from that first dance to rewrite what true love endures in America's story. Even as they journeyed into the political spotlight, Barbara remained George's anchor. When he chaired the CIA, she became his behind-the-scenes pillar, hosting diplomats and forging rapport with ease, cycling through Beijing's lanes and mastering Tai Chi as a partner in his career rather than just a wife. And long after, in the White House, she stood by him as a commanding presence, fierce protector of family values while he navigated foreign policy and global change. There were playful clashes too. Barbara once pressed him to golf so they could share time, only to be teased with his youthful flirtations and excuses, but she met his teasing head-on, quipping back, just like he's going to garden with me one day, and teaching everyone that love could be both tender and sharp. The letters never stopped. Whether in wartime or after decades together, he still wrote lines like, I have climbed perhaps the highest mountain in the world, but even that cannot hold a candle to being Barbara's husband, and she still replied with strength and warmth, calling him Poppy or Silver Fox, and reminding him he never walked ahead of her ever. Those years brought deep sorrow too. Robin's death cracked them, but George held Barbara through the night after night of grief, their tears mingling, two hearts beating in the stillness until new children came and their family slowly healed. Barbara battled depression in the 70s, a low point that shook her, but George never wavered, urging her to seek help and staying by her side until that shadow passed, proving again that their love was not just romantic but resilient. Their decades in the public eye forged a unique bond. They bantered in front of crowds, teased each other, and shared quiet moments unseen, like when he let Kit for her bedside in his last hours, holding her hand even when his own health faltered so they wouldn't sleep apart. Even as the world's demands grew, they found joy in small rituals. Before sleep he whispered I love you, Barbie, and in public they displayed effortless chemistry. At a baseball game she shaded his nose from the sun, they kissed on the kiss cam, laughed together in a way that showed everyone love could be both grand and everyday. When Barbara passed on April 17, 2018, George was there, holding her hand, refusing to leave, and at her funeral Jeb shared how Barbara opened her eyes, saw him and said, "My God, George, you are devastatingly handsome," bringing the room to tears. In those final months George's health waned, but family said he stayed strong just to be with her, to walk memories lanes hand in hand, until November 30, 2018, when he reunited with Barbara. Together again at last after 73 years, 101 days of a love that outlasted war, triumph, tragedy, politics and myth, a true epic of hearts intertwined forever. Continuing their journey from where we left off, imagine the hushed intimacy between George and Barbara in their private sanctuary long after the glare of public life dimmed. Their life together threaded by enduring rituals and mutual admiration even as age weighed on them. Each night, as their children recalled, George would whisper, "I love you, Barbie," before drifting to sleep, a vow renewed with gentle consistency. And during dinners, he'd find ways to make her laugh. Whether poking fun at his own distaste for broccoli, "I'm not going to eat any more broccoli. Barbara loves broccoli." Or teasing her on stage when she jokingly scolded herself for ordering peanut butter sandwiches at the White House, a moment later immortalized by their granddaughter as a lesson in humility and grace. In quieter hours they found joy in small rebellions, hosting diplomats in Beijing while Barbara, ever the hostess, practiced Tai Chi and swapped stories with visiting dignitaries, quietly fortifying George's confidence in his global roles. On stormy Maine nights when the house threatened to overflow, celebrated hilariously by Brooke Shields years later, they'd calmly mop the floors alongside guests, sharing the mundane with warmth and humor. And in the twilight of their lives, when doctors advised separate beds for health's sake, George refused, saying he needed to reach her in the night. In those final hospitalized days, Jeb recalled George lying like hell, mask strapped on, yet unwavering at Barbara's side. He held her hand until she opened her eyes and breathed, "My God, George, you are devastatingly handsome," a moment so poignant it moved the medical staff to tears. A fitting climax to 73 years of love that began with a teenage dance and culminated in a love so profound that, as historian John Meacham shared, when Barbara mused that George was saved for a reason, George raised his hand and pointed at her, You were the reason." Even in the 1980s and 90s, amid the whirlwind of political campaigns and global diplomacy, Barbara's wit became legend. She once quipped at the Republican National Convention that George told her to stand by him during his post-election vacation, and when she sharply admonished, "Just kidding," he replied, "No, she's not," the crowd erupting in laughter at their playful closeness. During their White House years, Barbara embraced her role as a literacy champion, founding the Barbara Bush Foundation for Family Literacy in March 1989 and harnessing the presidential platform to spotlight family reading, her quiet resistance to political spotlight proving her strength behind the scenes. Life at Camp David and Kennebunkport brought ordinary beauty, a late-night TV pizza order, shared jests, and a ritual of watching Law and Order, SVU together, as shown when Brooke Shields accidentally interrupted their midnight scene while rescuing their main house from flooding, only to be graciously invited to join, sitting knee-deep between them, sharing their laughter and comfort. When Barbara struggled with Graves' disease in 1989, or hit dark spells of mid-1970s depression, George became her steadfast confidant, embracing her till tears subsided, underscoring a love that wasn't all sparkle, but was unbreakable. Their summer travels remained hand-in-hand pilgrimages, sometimes brushing sunscreen on his nose at a Houston baseball game, or quietly praying aloud each night at home, even fighting over whose turn it is, an endearing testament to the small personal rituals that bound them together. In July 2017 at their main table, when Barbara looked across at George and told historian John Meacham, "You must have been saved for a reason," George fell silent before pointing at her and whispering, You were the reason." A moment so simple it belied the depth of a 75-year devotion. And in their final century-crossing days George, wearing a breathing mask, hair disheveled yet fiercely present, awoke in hospital simply to hold Barbara's hand, prompting her to murmur, "My God, George, you are devastatingly handsome," bringing the staff to tears and sealing a love story that began at a 1941 Christmas dance and endured war, politics, heartbreak, illness, and time itself. Continuing right where we left off, their story deepens with moments of vulnerability, joy, and unwavering companionship that only time can forge. In personal letters compiled in All the Best, George candidly confessed to his mother in 1942, "I kissed Barbara and am glad of it. I have never felt towards another girl as I do towards her. I have never kissed another girl," revealing a purity of devotion that would guide him through every stage of their life together. As he warmed up audiences during the 1987 campaign in rural Iowa, he marveled at being told, "You look younger than I thought," and found the response so delightful that he laughed openly. For Barbara, moments like these fueled his spirit on and off the trail. Their infamous broccoli war in March 1990 was more than a food dispute. It became a playful theatrical moment between them, where Barbara defended the vegetable he loathed, creating a charming public exchange that highlighted how they balanced each other in small human ways. After leaving the White House in January 1993, George described his final walk around the grounds. "Time goes on. And I'm sitting here now alone, the desk is clear and the pictures are gone, yet the sorrow of leaving the spotlight was tempered by the comfort of having shared those years with his constant partner." In September 1998 he reflected poignantly on aging, confessing he wanted to play golf, fish or throw shoes, and rejoice in your victories, be they political or business or family happiness. A reminder that his greatest joys still circled back to shared experiences with Barbara. Their later years brimmed with gentle defiance. When doctors advised separate beds for health reasons, George refused, saying he needed to reach her in the night. They clung to the ritual of whispering "I love you, Barbie" every night, a simple vow echoing the first flutter of a teenage dance. At age 80, and again at 85 and 90, George skydived with the Golden Knights on his birthday, while Barbara, ever supportive, found the courage to let him leap, showing that their trust extended to embracing life's thrills well into their later years. In Kennebunkport in 2004, they even staged a Segway race during a mock Summer Olympics, a playful testament to how they treated life as an adventure to share, not just endure. The couple also blanketed diplomatic missions with warmth. While stationed in China in the mid-1970s, Barbara biked through Beijing, invited George to ride along, and spearheaded informal gatherings that transformed formal receptions into bridges of genuine connection. In 1989, as First Lady, she founded the Barbara Bush Foundation for Family Literacy, a cause born of her own identity as a mother and wife, but also revealing how their unity extended into shared purpose, and how George championed her work. One of their most playful and beloved public moments came in 2014 when the two were caught on the kiss cam at a Houston Texans game, sealing the camera's gaze with a sweet kiss and reminding the nation that their love survived beyond titles and time. And in their last vigil together in 2018, with Barbara in hospice care, George, his breathing labored, leaned over, held her hand, and she opened her eyes to murmur, "My God, George, you are devastatingly handsome," a moment so beautifully fragile that it moved staff to tears, encapsulating a 73-year love that began with a waltz and ended only when life itself drew the closing curtain. As the world turned and years stretched into decades, George and Barbara remained the living embodiment of enduring devotion, two souls who never wavered. They shared their last years with quiet humor, Barbie teasing Poppy over his broccoli ban while he playfully threatened a boycott, only to watch her laughter light up the room. They lingered in handwritten love letters, like the one George drafted on their engagement announcement day, pouring out, "Bar, you have made my life full of everything I could ever dream of." They faced life's darkest moments, Barbara's depression, Robin's death, with empathy and emotional courage, and always, George held her tight until tears subsided, proving that love meant staying even when it hurt. In their final act of devotion, George, breathing unsteadily, the weight of nearly a century on his shoulders, refused to leave Barbara's side after her passing on April 17, 2018, and she, with one final breath, whispered, "My God, George, you are devastatingly handsome," a moment that distilled 73 years and 101 days of unwavering affection into a single breath. Less than 8 months later, on November 30, 2018, George followed her, crossing the same threshold and reuniting with his Barbara beyond time and flesh, two partners who began with a teenage dance and closed the circle of life without a word left unsaid. A love story for the ages, woven through war, politics, tragedy, laughter, illness, triumph, and everyday tenderness, reminding us that the truest epic is the one two ordinary hearts choose to live together until their final breath. If you enjoy the video, please like, subscribe, and share.